Hey everyone, it's Chuck Hogan, and welcome to Your Best Life on the Spanglish World Network on Zingo TV channels 250 and 251. Please remember to download both the Zingo TV app on the respective app stores on iOS and Android devices. And always remember while you download to make sure that you leave a comment. The app's completely free. Zingo TV is also available on Google Chromecast, Amazon Fire TV sticks, and you know what, Roku and Roku sticks as well, and all TVs 2016 and forward. Well, thank you for joining us tonight. It's another fun episode at Your Best Life. And, you know, every now and then I get to welcome some amazing friends back into the environment, and this is no exception. I've known James Cooper now, affectionately known as Coop, for, oh my gosh, James, how many years is it now, man? It's been a hot minute.
It's been, yeah, it's definitely been like 20, like almost 20 years, if not 20 years. Yeah.
We were both a little younger.
Yes.
A little more spry. And
when we were young men.
back in the day when we in the snow barefoot both directions.
Right.
So no, thank you for being here, brother.
Oh, my pleasure.
Yeah, it's always fun when we get to connect and we get to elevate in our conversations about different things. And you know, one of the great, I'll say, test of time and passages is fatherhood, like becoming dads. And it's been probably one, at least for me, one of the single most gratifying, yet also one of the single most terrifying experiences of my life. And you have two blessed, beautiful boys. And how old are they now? I mean, my gosh.
Yeah. So Theo is 9 and Henry is about to turn 12.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy. Yeah, my Henry just graduated from primary school from 6th grade. Yeah.
That's a big transition.
Yeah. It was, and he's been there since kindergarten, so 7 years. It's just amazing how the time has flown.
And now he's going to middle school.
He's going to middle school. Yes, it's a big jump.
It's the purgatory of the education system. It's like you're in that transition, wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, enthusiasm of elementary school, which seems so basic and so germane, when you're young, and then it's like, hey, there's this thing called middle school. We're gonna prep you for high school.
Yeah.
Like, whoa.
It's such a different experience that I had because my elementary school was actually rather large. We had a really large elementary school. And then when I went to middle school, it was middle school, junior high and high school combined. And it was still an extremely small school. I went to like a little prep school. And so even though it was the first experience with lots of different teachers, it was still, in the small hundreds of students. Whereas the school that Henry's going to is just giant. For a middle school, it looks like a little mini campus, like a college campus. It's crazy how big it is.
I'll tell you what, same for me growing up. I went to parochial elementary school, Catholic elementary school, and it went all the way from kindergarten to 8th grade. So, between priests and nuns, you were well prepared for what was coming in high school. And I went to an all-boys Catholic high school. But to your point, we moved here to Texas. Dude, like the high school campuses, they look collegiate. I mean,
they do. They do.
The stadiums, when they talk Friday Night Lights.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, totally.
Crazy.
Totally.
So, James, with everything you've got going on in your world, I mean, my gosh, I mean, you help so many people with their branding, their imaging, their video concepts, telling their stories, helping people really communicate, on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, for someone I've always looked up to you in so many ways, that and it's true, like your level of communication, the way that you emote and share your thoughts and ideas is always so thoughtful. It's always thoughtful. Thank you. It's an inspiration to all of us plebes who are trying to get to your level. And, I know you grew up, I'll say, in kind of in the biz, so to speak, like when we talk about it. I mean, your mom and dad were, I can only imagine, so widely influential on your background growing up in the entertainment industry. And yet I go, gosh, I see my experience with you, with Henry and Theo, has been one where I go, man, he is like such an earthy guy. And I don't mean to sound contrite about that, because I've known some people in the entertainment industry and they were kind of hands off, like letting everyone else raise their kid.
Yeah.
And what do you find brings you the most joy with your boys?
I think the most, it's a great question. I think there's so many things. I have been just in awe of how they've kind of become their own people
Yes.
in such a, they're so different. And I know, we talk about, nature versus nurture and their identities. You think like, well, I haven't really raised them differently. I raised them both the same. I love them the same. I encourage them the same, and yet they are so different people, and just in just their likes and dislikes, their mannerisms, how they look at the world, how they approach things, and they're both beautiful in their own way, and they both have their own strengths. It's been fascinating to watch them grow up. Theo is 9, and he's the total jock athlete. It's just amazing. He loves every sport, loves watching every sport. He's the quarterback on his football team. He's the pitcher on his baseball team, and he loves sports so much. And Henry could care less about sports. He doesn't like to watch them. He doesn't really care. Like, Theo's on the couch with me cheering Michigan, when they play every during college football season. Henry's in his own room making Legos and drawing, and Henry's more the creative. He wants to be an architect. He's fascinated with drawing and building, and he's the one that's the creative, like, actor and filmmaker. He's already got that bug, so it's fascinating to watch him. He was in his improv show. And he's I have to say, this is really funny. So he and our neighbor's kid, the two of them, they started a YouTube channel, and they've been making videos like every single day. And I'm a little jealous, because Henry, in about the pace he's going, in about 2 weeks, he's going to have more YouTube subscribers than I have, which is just insane to me. But it's been so much fun watching the two of them grow up.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful, man. No, I know it's so, I can't help but chuckle, because I was thinking, between Cole, Marina, and Keely, Cole it's the strangest paradigm, because he's intellectual and like physical, 4th-degree black belt in Taekwondo,
Yep.
loves working out every day, but he's a biochem. He just graduated with his biochem degree and a comp sci minor, and I'm like, thank God you have your mother's brain. And then Marina, like, so Cole was always in like soccer and athletics and academics. Marina was, I'm like, girl, where are you? Like, trying to even just get a gauge. The most loving, kind soul who can connect with every human being.
Love it.
And yet, isn't it interesting that given time, you start to see how they kind of blossom, right?
Yeah.
So I'm so excited for you, because you're right at that precipice of going, they used to do this, this, and this. And then you're like going,
yep.
Really? Like, you changed your mind like that?
Yeah. Now, did you have siblings?
I do. I'm the eldest of 3. So my brother and I are 13 months apart.
Uh-huh.
So you basically raised like twins for the most part. If I got an outfit, he got an outfit, and it was the same outfit.
Yeah.
And then I have a younger sister. So and she's 6 years younger than I.
Got it.
And so you're an only child, right?
I grew up as an only child. So my 2 half sisters, I called them my sisters, because they're obviously family, but they were my Pam's the oldest, and she's 16 years ahead of me, because they're from my dad's first wife.
Okay.
So Beth is 16 years ahead of me, and then Pam is 13 years ahead of me. So I didn't really experience that. Beth was already leaving for college when I was born. And so Pam was there. I remember I have memories of Pam being in the house. She was finishing high school. So I really grew up in that house as an only child. And
Interesting.
so that's been a whole new learning experience. I mean, obviously, first time parent, you're always a learning experience, but having two boys in the house with a lot of testosterone,
Mm,
they love each other to death, and then they want to wring each other's necks. And so having that dynamic in the house of like sometimes, they're I try to capture moments where they're hugging and it's like the sweetest thing in the world. And there are some days I got to get the hose practically to like, separate them. It's an amazing, it's the toughest job and it's the most rewarding job there is.
brother, amen. That's all. Amen. Um, I mean, even as now, I mean, Marina, she's home right now, but she has an apartment at college, and Cole's home right now as he's searching for gainful employment. And and then Keely is going to be a senior in high school, and so of course she's our the last of the Mohicans, so to speak. So she's like camping out and planning her escape. So it's interesting to see all of the, to your point, all the modalities, and it's like all the processes and all the
Yeah.
dynamics.
Yeah.
And I just know this, and this what warms my heart is they're really all very kind people.
Yeah. That's
And
great.
and
That's
man,
great.
oh, that's heartwarming.
Yeah.
I used to think, oh, if they're just really successful and driven, and I go, no, they're happy
Yeah.
and kind people, and I go, that's really freaking cool.
Yeah. Knowing what we know when it comes to personal development and all the experience in the Robbins arena and all that, it's fascinating to know that and then to look at them, watch their behavior, and kind of understand
Yeah.
what drives them. One of the things that I am so glad that I understand is knowing what my kids' love languages are. That
Yes.
is really, really fascinating and so good to know, because then like I get to feed them love in their language.
Yes.
And it's been a really, because like Henry, my oldest, like physical touch is really, really important to him.
Mhm.
And so like, putting a hand on his shoulder, giving him hugs when he needs it, like when he says he needs love, like he comes to you sometimes when he's like feeling emotional. Like, he just finished sixth grade. He's been there for 7 years, and he was like leaving school, like crying, knowing that he'd never walk through those gates again, as a student. And like, he just needed to be held. And Theo, love language is not his primary. It's definitely, we obviously give him hugs and love, but it's love, physical touch is not his primary love language. For him, words of praise are very important to him, and he needs to hear it.
Yep.
And so it's just so fascinating to know what your kids' love languages are.
So important. And for it's really interesting because I can say this with a high degree of certainty. The level of variety that Cole has required pales in comparison
Yeah.
to what my daughters have needed.
Yeah.
And it's dependent on the situation. They can call an audible, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I saw that going a whole different way. Uh, and to your point, Coop, it's like the
Yeah.
most humbling experience, man, because you'll be like, wow, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, of all the 50 things that I had prognosticated, that wasn't one of them. And,
Yeah.
and so when it comes to, it's beautiful to see their connection, and they're brothers.
Yeah.
And isn't it amazing how siblings know how to go right for the jugular? Like, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
it's like so quick.
Yeah. Yeah. They know, like Henry likes to let Theo know that he's the older brother, even though like physically, like, obviously Theo's more of the athlete and stuff like that. So they've been going height wise, they've been going like this. And then over the past year, Theo's gone like this.
Oh,
And
wow.
so it's kind of crazy. Theo is now almost 3 inches taller than Henry, even though Henry is 2.5 years older.
Yes.
And so like, for a while people thought they were twins, and now people think that Theo's the older brother.
Hey,
But like, yeah.
we have the same stitch. So Cole's 3 inches taller than I am. Marina is 3 years older and like 2.5 inches shorter than her sister, her younger sister. And oh my gosh, I mean, and it's so interesting though, because there's this, to your point, there's this nuance where I don't find it to be acknowledgement of age as much as it is, hey, respect.
Yeah.
And I go, I like that. And
Yeah.
yet times I go, knowing what we know, you're like going, okay,
Yeah.
is it really about respect, or is it about your ego? Is it about your significance? Are you seeking certainty or that much
Right.
variety? And I go, because my hallucination is we all crave love and connection. I said, we're all
Yep.
energetic love bugs. We need it. We want it. We desire
Yeah.
it. And what I'm so grateful for now is that my kids will still ask me for hugs.
I love it.
And at this age, and even my son, and who goes,
Yeah.
hey, and
Yeah.
it's one of the most gratifying feelings to know that your kids are not afraid to connect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and then there's a challenge too, and I'd love to ask you about this. So knowing what we know, knowing what you know,
Yeah.
how do you let them have their experiences without helicoptering or bulldozing, or
Yeah.
because there's all these kind of quirky terms now that they affiliate to kids' experiences, and how parents are kind of entwined in that relationship.
Yeah. That's a great question. I've tried to be really conscious of not hovering and not being a helicopter parent. Um, but there are definite things that I ask them to watch out for,
Mhm.
or, um, again, like knowing uh, language being so important, uh,
Yes.
and telling them, rather than say, you know, uh, make sure that doesn't fall. Make sure that that doesn't like I've always been very aware of my language. Like, make sure you hold on to that, giving it more of a positive rather than a negative language. It's hard, but like I
Right.
learned that from Steve Linder. Like when learning how to rephrase things in
Yes.
a positive way so that you can steer towards the outcome rather than steering towards what you don't want.
Man,
Um,
I'll tell you
yeah,
what, we use the reticular activating system on the daily, like, and to the point where, so Cole's gone to GYLS since he was 13, and
yeah,
now he just turned 24 yesterday, so he's going back for his last year to be a captain. Keely's
yep,
going back as an alumni. Marina never went, but she went to another event, uh, very similar, called Alakai in Hawaii.
yeah,
And I just share this with you because they all have these nuances, these references
yeah,
for where focus goes, energy flows.
yeah,
And it seems like such a coined catchphrase, right? Yet it has so much validity and so much validation
yeah,
in the premise of it.
yeah,
And yet I'm still reminded that we're all human and we have emotions.
totally, totally, yeah. Um, I mean, when you have your first, I think what framed it for me right from the beginning was, first of all, we had an amazing pediatrician. She still is. I mean, she's still our kid's doctor,
Nice.
and uh, first time parents have the tendency to be a little more nervous, a little more careful because they
Sure.
don't have to know, right? And so when Henry was born, the day after he was born, our pediatrician came by, and I remember like it was today. She picked up Henry, she grabbed him by the leg. She said, "The one thing I want to tell you: stressed parents, stressed baby." Said that. She said, "I also want you to know," and she grabbed Henry by the leg and held him upside down like a chicken. Like it was the weirdest thing in the world. And we're like our eyes both got so wide. And it's like, "I want you to know he is not fragile. You will be fine. He is
Yes.
not fragile." And then she gave him to us. But that moment, like we're like, okay, we get it. We understand. And so as like, we weren't obviously we took some precautions of,
Oh yeah.
corner glass tables and things like that. But for the most part, we let Henry, almost like a lot of parents treat a second child. We
Mhm.
let Henry kind of stumble and fall, and we weren't like the nerve, like, there's a natural tendency when a kid falls to be like, like that, and the kids see that emotion and energy on your face, and that's usually when they start crying. And so, and they look for your reaction to when they fall. And so when Henry was like, when he was a toddler and learning how to walk and running around, like when he would fall, like he would look for me and I'd be like, I would smile at him, like, come on. Like, rather than like the rushing nervousness.
Right.
And I think those little things,
Cool.
letting them try things, letting them, uh,
They're huge.
yeah,
They're
they
huge.
are. Yeah, because I mean, I think when we were kids,
Oh,
like, I don't know how I look at the way I think, like, parents look at kids today, and then I look at my life, it's like, "How did I survive this long?" I don't know how we did it. Like, all the jungle gym, I used to walk on the tops of those
yes.
tall towers, walk on the bars that were this thin, and I mean, I don't know how we used to hang out on my friend's roof and just
Yes.
kind of sit up there and bring a cooler and like with sodas and stuff, and we just sit there and like, I mean, literally we could have slipped to our death at any moment,
Yes.
but we survived.
Listen,
And
that
yeah,
was our hide and go seek hangout spot. We had a space.
exactly.
I mean, we climbed to the tops of trees.
Yeah,
We ride our bikes everywhere. Like the
yeah.
level of
Oh yeah,
independence that we
yeah,
found as kids. So
yeah,
you went and played tennis or racquetball. You went swimming. You did all these different things. And
yeah.
my gosh, our only rule was come home when the street
Come
lights.
home come home dinner time. My mom would give me a quarter just in case I need to make a payphone call.
Yep.
She'd give me a quarter and she's like, "All right, be back by dinner." And we would bike and yeah. Now when I see a kid walking by himself, I'm like, "Where's that kid's parents?"
No, it's the craziest thing. And to your point, my parents did the same thing with the quarter, but we saved them up for a week and then we'd go play asteroids at the 7-Eleven. So that's how that went. We got really good at asteroids. For the last 5 hours, we're like going, we're on a roll.
I
They're
love
like,
it. I
wait,
love
what?
it.
They're like going, oh man, like I could do this for hours.
All
And
right, right. Oh my goodness.
so I love this. Thank you for this so much because it's giving
Yeah.
me flashbacks and memories. And it is interesting that you said, as I really believe that one of the things that's ailing a lot of kids in today's climate
Yeah.
is this insatiable need to protect.
Yeah.
It's like what the exposure, the exposure, the exposure. And so, if you look back and go from the 1920s to the 30s, during the Great Depression, going into the
Yep.
40s, into the heyday of the 50s, I'm a kid of the 60s,
Yep.
and so all the shows like Brady Bunch and Gilligan's Island, all these things,
Yeah.
like as we have all these anchors to, it was like it was so wholesome.
Yeah.
And in today's world, they go, well, what do you find disfavor with? And I said, there's not a consensus anymore about what ethical looks like.
Mm.
And it's become very individualized in a lot of ways. And they go, well, if you don't like it, change the channel. And I said, your kids don't always have the opportunity of changing the channel.
Yeah. Yeah.
In that upload mode, their prefrontal cortex of their brain isn't even fully developed till they're into their mid-20s. And I go,
Yeah.
so my kid's just now starting to like finish his cooking cycle. And I'm like going, okay.
Yeah.
So why do I go there? Say, because the amount of impression and the amount of influence that peer group has. And I love that Henry's working on YouTube stuff. And I mean, that's amazing. And, Felix Max is working on writing programs and, code and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And yet I'm reminded, I'm like going, okay, cool. Where are they getting the lessons?
Right. Yeah. It's a double-edged sword. And what I mean by that is, well, first of all, we do our best to limit screen time. That's one thing. They love video games. I love video games.
I
Yeah,
know.
totally. And I think that there are some really great things in Minecraft and the building aspect of it. It's like virtual Legos and stuff like that. And they're both really good at it. And I love that creative part of it. But we do try, Alex, their mom is really, really emphasizes being outdoors, going on hikes, doing a lot of physical activity.
Right.
Even though Henry's not an athlete, he loves hiking, he loves being in nature. And
Yep.
so we really try to weigh heavy, be outside, go outside. 'Cause that's what my mom used to do. Go outside, get out of the house, don't come back until dinner. Um, Social media is the world we live in today. It's just part of our world. And
Absolutely.
a lot of their friends have social media accounts. We've tried to limit that. They do not have. They have the we allowed the neighbor, our neighbor's friend, Henry's friend, and him to have a joint YouTube account, but
Mhm.
it's a public account, but they're not allowed to. There's no comments, so there's no kind of interactive because it's just it could be a weird world out there.
Yeah,
And
they're putting their feet out and not getting
yeah,
right.
right. Because we don't know, because we can't, we try to monitor what we can, but it's like, we don't know who's comments and stuff like that. So we limit that. They're still, they're 9 and 12. They don't have, Instagram or anything like that.
Right.
Because here's what I've noticed. This is the thing. It's the first time I've really noticed this, is that as Henry's channel is becoming more popular and he gets likes and he gets, followers and stuff, I've noticed the last few weeks as his channel has been growing, he checks on it a
Yes.
few times a day. It's like,
Yes.
oh, 3 more people joined. Oh, 5 more people subscribed.
Yes. Yeah,
And
right.
there's that
Right.
there's that dopamine effect of
It
like,
is.
wow, I got more. And then and then it's like one of the first things he checks, like how many more subscribers we have. And that to me was a little dangerous. And so we had to have a conversation about that, listen, you focus on creating.
Mhm.
You do what you're doing, you create your movies and your videos and you focus on that part of it. The followers and the subscribers will take care of themselves, but I don't want you to be always obsessed with how many people are watching and joining and all that stuff. Because that's what's going on right now, I think, in today's world, when you look at how depressed teens are and
Mm.
how much social media plays into that, especially ones who want to be influencers, or even those who just they don't want to be influencers, but they just want to be liked on social media and their photos and their videos to get likes and comments and all
Right.
that. And so there becomes that need for that public adoration or attention, and then being depressed when they don't when people don't like their videos or don't comment positive things on their social media.
Well, that's the currency, right? And
Yeah,
so, to be in, so influence is influence. So you're in fluidity, you're in flow, you're in,
yeah,
so creativity, yet everyone has an opinion, everyone's a critic, we're
right,
all movie makers, and it's like, whoa, okay, so now everything I'm putting out is being critiqued or
right,
judged. And this is where it gets really, it can get dangerous,
yeah,
and there's a difference because I believe that there's a lot of folks that are out, and I know some folks like their accounts are just starting to blow up. They've had some acclaim because there's
yeah,
stuff going on with investments and short selling and what have you, and it's like, that's great,
yeah,
awesome, it's coming to the public light, it's not fixing the problem, but they're going to get wealthy off of playing the system and understanding how to manipulate it back. And I go, that's
right,
awesome, good for you. And was the outcome money? Was the outcome fame? Was the
hmm,
outcome be a part of a movement? Because they're kind of uh, millennials, and I'm like going, oh, so righteous cause, and I'm going to be a part of this. And I go, and none of it's right, none of it's wrong. The challenge now becomes is, what's the meaning we attach to it where we're living when it comes to the integration of information and experiences, right? Because at the end of the day, we just pray that our kids are getting lessons from all
right,
these things.
yeah,
And
yeah,
the measurement tools are changing all the time.
yeah,
Someone was
yeah,
asking me, how's the weather in Texas? And I said, it's lava. Like it's hot and sultry. And they're like, oh, so what's the number? And I go, well, it depends, Celsius or Fahrenheit.
Right.
Because if you're in Celsius and I give you a Fahrenheit number, you're going to think I'm sitting on the surface of the
On the sun. I know. Yeah.
sun, right? And then if you give them another number, they're like, oh, well, that doesn't seem so bad. Why aren't you wearing a parka? And so it is interesting to see how are you finding now? Because you brought up a great point, brother, and that is there's been this digitization of information management and protocol. So like my kids' accounts
Yep.
are their follow-up accounts that they got that were established while they were in school.
Hmm.
So the educational environments are like, oh, you need an Instagram handle, you need a Facebook, you need,
Right.
you know, I'm like, wait, whoa. Like, what?
Yeah.
But it's being imparted because they're using that as part of their training curriculum.
Yeah.
And I go, wow, what happened to books?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. This last year, well, it's been a couple of years. I think it's since when we had COVID and we had kind of the the homeschool slash virtual classroom.
Right.
We had that, and they were both younger, and so I think Henry was in third grade, and Theo was in either first or kindergarten, and so where they had 100, their entire school year was virtual. It was just in front of a classroom, and that was a really interesting time for all of us. Luckily, knock on wood. Luckily, Alex and I both work from home, and so we were able to be there at home full time. Obviously, we had to be because lockdown, a lot of that, but able to monitor and watch to see how kids experienced, class through Zoom and learning everything through Zoom, and it was a fascinating time. But ever since then, there's been, a computer component too, which is good. They need to learn computer skills. They need to learn how to use it.
Yes.
But there's so much learning now where, I'm glad they both have library where they can actually check out books. But so many of their class homework is done on an online platform, and they have to log in and we had to sign them up with the Google accounts so they could log in and get their homework assignments, and it's just so different. I mean, even when I went to Michigan, when I went to college, we didn't have assignments online. I mean, I'm dating myself, but I mean, it's like, we had to go and buy all these huge books.
Was alive and well, and I was having a copy card so I could
go
and
oh my god stuff. Yeah, we had to go to the library and check out microfilm and put it in and look at old
decimal system. I mean, I'm like going, wow, boy.
I know.
I'm going to FedEx my cane to you. So it is interesting though, and I actually had this conversation with my kids' educators as they were growing up, and I said, one of the interesting facets about this is I have no problem with digital. My greater concern is that you're actually curtailing their level of access to the World Wide Web.
Yeah.
So they're like going, oh, you can get information from these sites and that's it. And they go, well, Mr. Hogan, it's not really that detrimental because it's no different than if we gave them books. And I said, well, true, but there is a difference because before they could have gone to the library. And so they could have gone and researched. And I said, here's what I found. And this is my own hallucination, so I'm going to preface it that way. He said, well, what is your concern? And I said, resourcefulness. And he was like, continue. I said, well, in the pursuit of even trying to find the data, because I remember when I got my first set of Encyclopedia Britannicas and they couldn't have come too soon. I found that I ended up developing a strategy to be resourceful around finding where this content was. And it actually, with the Dewey Decimal System, and then using the creativity of my brain, looking up the titles, and then finding the digitization of it through the commas and the numbers, I go, it was developing critical thinking. And they're like, holy smokes. So I actually became much more resourceful in being able to find data quickly, get it, Because when everyone had a project due and it was a report, those library books got checked out real quick.
Real fast.
And they don't have more than one copy of most
Yeah.
of the books. So
Yeah.
he goes, interesting. And he goes, what's your experience now? And I said, the exposure I see now is you give them a laptop, it's IP locked to only certain sites. And I said, so you really kind of curtailed them. Like, you don't even have to look at the course curriculum. You could just go whether or not this is a pass-fail paper based on the number of bullet points that they put in and footnotes off the content that you've read a million times before, because they don't have but 3 sites they can go to.
Wow. Wow.
And I know, and people go, oh, well, that seems awfully critical. And I said, no, I said, it's just observation.
Yeah.
You said, well, to your point, digitization, World Wide Web, growing, massive. And then you go,
yeah. Yeah. Well, it's only going to get, I mean, it's only going to get more advanced. I mean, you know, with virtual reality is going to be the new frontier. And
yes.
so, you know, I mean, Apple obviously created those huge giant things, but pretty soon they're going to be just like regular glasses, and you're going to be able to virtually go to the Colosseum in Rome and like be there when, you know, they'll have something where you're like literally sitting in the stands watching an actual gladiator fight back, you know, in Roman times.
You know, you're going to be like, oh,
yeah, yeah, exactly. but that's where it's going to be headed, and I'm excited for them to be able to have that technology. I'm jealous. I think it'll be exciting when we can experience it too ourselves. But that's going to be. I mean, the only thing, like, I really would still love my kids to experience, because my parents didn't spend a lot of money on things. They were always more about the experiences. And I was really grateful to grow up in that environment, because I got to see a lot of the world when my parents went on trips. So I have been so blessed and fortunate to be able to travel to Europe, travel to Africa, travel to Asia, and see some of these famous, famous wonders of the world, and to see them live. And one thing that I really would love my kids to do is travel, because I think you just get such there's an enrichment that you can't get from virtual, from looking on the web.
yes.
You just can't get that same experience of what it's like to actually be there and see those things, and also, you know, to see the country. That's something that, as much as I saw of Europe, I still would love to travel the United States. And so I think that's something also that I would love my kids to experience, and just do road trip through America. That's something that I really would love to do.
We did that a lot as kids. And to your point, I was just at a biohacking conference this last weekend with Dave Asprey, and he's a member of our Your Best Life community. Brilliant guy. I mean, and Jim Quick was there, Susan Bretton was there, Gabby Bernstein, Lisa Williams. I mean, all these people have spoken on our stages, which has been remarkable.
Amazing.
What's crazy now, they've actually been able to log in, James, that there's a frequency that each of these places have.
Wow.
And so now they're going, wait, if we can, through the metaverse, emote that frequency, you will actually be, in some ways, at a very high level, engaged with the actual resonance that space and place. And they've even gone so far as to, like, sunset in, Mykonos, which is just crazy gorgeous, by the way.
Yeah.
And then, like, that is a different frequency. And as the sun's going down, they can modulate the frequency so that your experience will be different. I'm like going, shut the front door. But we know this for a fact now. There's actually a scientist here. In fact, he lives like a block and a half away from me. His name's Dr. Jerry Tennant. And brilliant scientist, where he was actually losing his cognitive faculties. He created LASIX and a bunch of other stuff, simple things like that, I mean, that only a 7-time PhD can do. But he was losing his cognitive ability.
Wow.
And he was like, I gotta fix this before I go, and I check out. So he found out, and I know it's gonna look weird, but this is actually a massager, but he actually found out that there was a device that he could use where your cells remodulate and they sustain when they're at like 25 milliamps. And then when you're at 50 milliamps, your cells actually multiply and duplicate, instigating healing. And he's like going, well, I can make a biomodulator that has that frequency and that energy level. And he did. Now, this is what they're talking about, though. And the reason why I go there is your kids modulate at different frequencies. I am thoroughly convinced at this point that at some point in time, an Aura Ring, an Apple Watch, a Whoop, they're going to be able to pick up on the epithelials of your DNA through CRISPR, since they've already mapped the genomic index now.
Yeah.
And this is one of the reasons, and I'm sorry to all the physicians out there, we convince children to go to med school.
Wow.
And they're like, wait, you did what? Are you psychotic? We convince them not to go to med school because AI is advancing at such a rapid pace.
Yeah.
That it's going to outmode. And yet, back to a fundamental that you brought up, and that is energy and emotions and feelings.
Yeah.
It's honoring your kids and being able to give them that space where they can grow and emote and feel connected. So what are some of the things that you and Alex are like? I know the hiking and I know the creativity.
Yeah.
And I'm going to go in a really weird direction for just a second, because this just came up. Spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
People like going, okay, faith, and is it Christian? I go, is it energy? Is it spirituality?
Yeah.
And my answer is yes.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't raised religious. Both my parents were, and they both just chose that not to raise me in any particular religious. So, whenever I learned about religion, and my grandmother was still took when I would spend weekends at my grandmother's, we would go to church on Sunday. So I experienced it, but I wasn't raised religious.
It wasn't dogmatic for you.
Was it what? Cosmetic?
No, dogmatic.
Oh, dogmatic.
Yeah.
I think my parents just wanted me to make up my own mind and figure that out eventually. And so I think Alex and I both kind of feel that same focus of not having you raise your kids with good moral values.
Yes.
You raise your kids with the tenets that all religions have of being good to other people, kindness, and just raising good people, people to be good people. And I think they're gonna be fine. And if they decide to find religion later on, and then that's what they're meant to learn. That's what they're meant to have. I think that we tend to pass on. Well, it depends. I can't say that. So some people were raised by their parents a certain way, and they decide, when I have kids, I'm not going to do that.
Exactly.
But I think a lot of parents pass on the way that they were raised.
Will never do to you what you do.
Exactly. So I think excuse me. I think that we just naturally do the best we can to show them a good moral compass. And then when we notice things, I think my boys have been a pretty good judge of character. I think that their friends, they know behaviors that even their friends in school, the behaviors that they express or do, and they know when those are not right. They know
energy. And how they know energy and how Alex, which I think that part of some of, and it's going to sound a little woo, but part of that imprinting of, to your point, when you raise a child with calmness and a level of certainty, that they start to develop that and cultivate that skill of being able to feel more full. It's because I'm having more difficult conversations now, brother, than ever before, which are, hey, so all this stuff politically going on, and I try to stay away from
Totally.
the fray.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I actually went ethical, and I said, okay. I said, let's be very pragmatic about this. If I were hiring someone to be the president of your university or to run my company, would I be proud of the context,
Sure.
behavior, and and not just what's being said, but literally the energetic reaction that someone has? And I go,
Yeah.
there's a difference between concern. There's a difference between safeguarding and trying to put, that kind of boundaries up. And then I said, then there's just stark attacks.
Sure.
And I go, there's a lot of contrast between those three modalities.
Totally. Totally. Yeah. And let me also be fair and be real. I mean, there are times when I lose my stuff,
Oh,
right? And where I need to put myself in check, because it's like, like you just sometimes you you do the best you can, but if you have two brothers, and sometimes there's a physical altercation, and it, I I just I I try to impress upon my boys to treat each other with respect, but they're also brothers. And I never experienced brothers because I grew up as an only child. But I know Alex had a sibling, and the two of them went at it like cats and dogs. And so, I think as parents, we do the best we can.
yes.
And I always apologize if I raised my voice. I apologize to them later. It was like was not I lost my stuff, and I apologize for that. And then and then we move forward. So I think we're all human. We all do the best we can with the resources we have in the moment. And I think if you give your kids a good moral compass, I think that they're going to grow up to be good people. Yeah.
I love this, and I mean this has been so heartwarming to have this conversation. It really has, because it just reaffirms that I'm not completely nuts. And no, because we've had times when people go, man, you and Julie are strict, and I said, you really think so? I said, my mother's Japanese and my dad was in the Navy for 30 years. I said, I don't know that you know what strict is. Like, and they're like, and yet I survived. We both did.
Yeah.
In Southern California, of all things, as well. So it's like going, yes, you can, be a progressive, developmental individual and still grow up to be a healthy adult.
Yeah.
How do people get a hold of you? Like, if people were looking to go deeper with James Cooper, I know that you. So, and I'm just telling you all, if you need like inspiration from a video perspective, from your storyboarding to production to your social media to like,
Sure.
I will just say your life, because that's what we're all in now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I help people in so many different ways, in terms of social media, but also telling their story, and whether they want to be a speaker on stage or whether they want to grow their social media. You can always reach me on Instagram at James Cooper Films is my account. So you can just go to Instagram and just follow me if you like, and James Cooper Films, and you can always message me there. Just make sure you reference either YBL or Chuck, just so I know where you came from. And I would love to connect with you and just help you any way that I can.
No, that's amazing, man. Thank you for that. It's
Yeah.
again, for me, it's always one of those scenarios where I'm going, when you have amazing people in your life, celebrate them. Life's too short, and I've lost too many people. Oh, listen, I love you, brother, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I know that it's busy,
No worries.
and it's that way for all of us. And I say the world only gets better by sharing and showing that you care. So, for all of our folks out there, reach out to James, connect with him. This is a replay, so you're gonna see you again. And I appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much for having me on.
Pleasure's all mine. I'm going to remind our viewing audience that this show can also be heard on the Spanglish Radio Network. Please check us out for all the news and all the programming, Spanglish World. Watch it, hear it, read it, download it, and of course, live it. God bless everyone. Have a great day.